Gleston, thanks for joining us. For those of you who don't know him, his name is Gleston Mendonca, and at 19, he became a millionaire. So I am quite fascinated to hear your story. So just, let us know what sparked this journey for you.
The original discussion for myself was really to retire my parents. That was the first decision I took. So I realized that well, you could say that my parents grew up in a very humble way. We're originally from India, and they grew up in a very, very hard life. And then I just saw how hard my parents were working, and I said, wow, let's retire the parents. I think I know this is what's going to benefit them the most. So that's what allowed me to start with going after goals in the first place. That's what allowed me to get into the world of business. So I was originally a musician, but then I decided that it's great, but I know it's highly competitive, and I definitely know that there's a lot of singers out there that probably may be better than I am, and I didn't feel completely called to it. So then when I was discovering my journey into business, I just fell in love with it because I'd done a lot of networking, and then I found out there's some incredible people out there, and I fell in love with business from there.
Wow. Well, for someone this young to be able to achieve what you've done, what do you think makes the difference between you and others your age?
Great question. I believe that I'm no different to anyone. I believe that anyone can achieve it. It's just a matter of how willing are you to do it? Because for the changes that need to be done, you need to be very, very much emotionally involved in the goal. And I was like, I would die for my parents. And I think that's what makes me different from others. But not saying that anyone can't. I definitely can say anyone can do it. But the level of love and the level of dedication I had to my parents was that's what allowed me to start saying, I don't care. I won't go on that Friday evening. I won't go to university. I would surround myself with people who are a lot older than me, mostly double my age. So early 30s, and it could even go up to people in their 60s. So I was really surrounding myself in that environment. So I would say just my dedication and my determination. That's what was really, really pushing me there.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like when you've got a really deep motivation inside of you, you become unstoppable. It's like you'll find ways rather than say that everything's conspiring against me. But now there are people that maybe have the same drive, but they still don't have the same results. So what would you say to those people?
Great question. The difference that would be is it's interesting because if they really wanted it, they would already have it. So there's one aspect which is consistency. And as I'll be honest, with my personality type, consistency is not our favorite word. I would say that. So there's four different personality colors. One is the blue character, which is someone who's very party, very fun, likes to be around people. You would call them the social butterfly. Some may call that type of person. And we're always seeking for fun, and we're constantly going from one place to another. So when I first started business, it was very interesting because I had to get over that inconsistency. So the thing is, for me, I knew I couldn't do it alone. And I think that's just really what drove me. And I knew that none of my friends were business oriented at the age of 18. And so I decided, hey, look, I need a business mentor. And that's what I decided to take on. So I took on business mentorship. And I could say I went to the moon and back in pain, but the results speak for themselves. So I enjoyed it. It's a great process.
Well, yeah, I think giving up things that people your age would normally not do because they're at that place where they're starting to find out who they are and who their friends are. But I suppose they lose a lot of time wasted just because they don't have maybe the right guidance or the right people around them because what do they say? The top, you are the result of the top five people you hang around with.
There's so much to it. And one is environment. That's the first thing. And I'll be honest, I've changed my environment on four different occasions. And what I mean by that is going from a state of school children or school kids and people my age to a step up into people who are in business. And this is something that's very prominent because from what I understand about energy And so to really delve a bit more into this is that when it comes with energy, we attract who we are, not what we want. So whatever is inside of us, we attract from the outside. So to be honest, I was attracting some interesting people, I must say, initially, because from the circles I was coming from, I wasn't coming from a wealthier background. I was coming from more of more of a dark place, and I had to take care of the inner work so that I could attract the right people towards me. So then from that point onwards, I it's interesting because people say, well, did you cut them off? And no, I didn't cut them off. What I really did was, what happens is when you start going towards a specific goal, and people who are in your previous life of, let's just say, school, you fall out of sync with them. And so what happens is it's a great way of talking about a race. And you just sped up, and then you didn't leave them behind, but they just dropped off. And that's naturally what happens. So then when you start speeding ahead, they naturally drop off and you don't need to do anything. Because then even when you have a conversation with them, because I'm blue, even when I'd go back to them and say, hey, look, how's everything going? I just realized there wasn't the same connection anymore. I was on a completely different wavelength to them. And not in an egotistical way, but it's like when you have a phone, you need to be on the same frequency to have a great conversation. But really, we were on two different frequencies. So guess what? We're just hearing static noise when we talk to each other, and that's what was happening. So that's why
Yeah.
you all automatically fall off. And that's one aspect. Environment is very, very powerful, but it's also the mindset behind it. And something that my mentors taught me, so Mr. Bob Proctor and his top consultants, one of the main things was not, business is 95% mindset and 5% strategy. There's only really one strategy at the end of it, but there's so much more internal work and so much more mindset that needs to be done in order to get the result. And that's why for me to change around myself, I had to change inwards and the inner world. So I love to say the outer world is really the picture image of your inner world. That's what I love to say.
Yeah. Well, there are so many people that think that if they just learn the stuff, watch the videos, read the books, then they're going to change and they're going to magically attract something. And that doesn't work. You have to do the inside work. What would you say were the biggest mindset shifts that helped you to get to that goal?
There were so many. There were so many. One, it was understanding myself. I knew that how can I get the results if I don't understand myself? And Bob was very adamant about it. He told his top consultants that passed the knowledge over to me, that if I'm going to get great results, I need to know who I am. And the problem is we go through education, we go through life without understanding who we are. And if I was to go to a specific person, anyone, and I said, who are you? 99% will say their name or their body. But guess what? They're not their name or their body. They are the spiritual being within them. And it's kind of interesting when you go into more spiritual side of things. It's like you are the spirit. People say, no, like I have a soul, but you don't have a soul. You are the soul. You just moved into your physical body and you're going to move out of it when you transcend. So, and Bob loves to say this, is that you operate on three different planes of understanding. So you're a spiritual being, you live in a physical body, and you have an intellect. And our intellect is one of the greatest powers that we have. So no other animal in the world has an intellect, as far as we know.
Yeah, that's powerful. And also, I think a lot of people don't know how to use this intellect that we have to its maximum capacity. You know, a lot of the time it's just wasted, and not necessarily wasted, you know, to us, to somebody who's at a certain level, it might seem that way. But I think our emotions get in the way, and victimhood, and that feeling of limitation, I guess. So, okay. Did you ever have self-doubt? Or did you just, was it a knowingness?
It's incredible. I did have some limiting beliefs. One, I was like, I'm 18. There's no one's going to take me seriously. This was right at the beginning. I was like, no one's going to take me seriously. But then I was also very, very, there's another color called yellow. And I was very yellow. And yellow people are very caring, very nurturing, very service-like. They want to make sure everyone's okay. But the problem with being yellow, especially when you want to make money, especially when you want to do business, it can sometimes get in the way and people can walk over you. So sadness was one of the driving factors for me. So I was like, well, I don't really want to sell them because I'm scared that I'm going to lose a friendship. And that's also the blue side. Like blues want to have friends everywhere. But it's like the aspect of I don't want to lose a friend. So one of my limiting beliefs was I will lose friends if I try to sell them. That was one of the blocks that I had, which was saying, hey, look, I won't make any money if I can't sell. And that was the idea behind it. So that yes, there was 100% a few limiting beliefs. But at the same time, when you're so focused on the goal, you start to drive towards a destination that you are coming closer to, and you don't look behind you, you just keep going. And then but that's the great thing about having a mentor is that when you are going towards the goal, you have a third person perspective. So you may not know that you're going to crash into a wall, but then your mentor is like, no, Gleston, go around the wall so that you can go and navigate around it so that you can keep going towards your goal. And that's why a mentor is always great as well. So yeah, 100% it has some limiting beliefs. But I think when you have that level of knowingness and when you have that level of conviction and drive, I think anything is game. I think anything is possible.
Yeah, that is awesome. What is it that you think holds most people back from achieving their goals?
Quite a few. One of the aspects is that the best way to say it is that their willingness to change. And that's something that is very, very prominent because one aspect is their willingness to change. What does that mean? Because there's a quote that says, people love change, but they resist being changed. And it's the idea that when we change, it builds up a whole load of emotions and fear and doubt and all these other things. And one of the aspects is something that we call the terror barrier. And terror barrier is something that we hit on the way to our goal. And what happens is, so just to give a little bit of explanation. So the terror barrier is you're operating with two images. So let's just say I want to go after the million, but I'm not a millionaire. So what happens is on our way to the million, we have two different images. We have the image that we have that is from the previous conditioning, which is I'm poor, I'm not enough, all these aspects. And then I deserve 10,000 a year or 30,000 a year or even 50. But then you have the million, which is I'm going to hit this million. I'm so determined and I see a better life for myself. So when you have two conflicting images, what happens is your mind goes into chaos because now what happens is you're going through that barrier and you're like, I don't know what to do. And the best way to go through these barriers is through understanding, is that the same goal that you're going to get from 10 grand a month, let's just say that's one of your goals, 10 grand a month. And then the same thing to 50 grand, every single goal that you're going after, you're always going to feel fear, always. And that's just a natural understanding. So for people to understand that, hey, look, fear is a natural thing and fear can be very good. Even a lot of my billionaire friends say, hey, look, fear is an incredible thing because it gets you more heightened awareness and more hyper focused in certain states of being. And that allows you to be very, very, very helpful in that regard. And in order to navigate through and crash through that terror barrier rather than hitting the terror barrier and going backwards. So, and that's one of the main aspects. It's just fear. It's just fear of what people think, fear of the unknown, fear of rejection is so many. There's so many things that you can say. But the greatest thing that your viewers can take away is, hey, look, fear is part of the game. Fear is part of the mode. But the key is to stay focused on what you want rather than what you don't want. And then you get your results.
I suppose people have fear no matter what level they're at. I mean, you might have a lot of money and billionaires would fear losing it.
100%. It's actually interesting because this is something that we teach in we teach in our community. And it's something that we call abundance blocks. And this is a very, very interesting concept. And this is something that only Bob Proctor taught his top consultants. And it's that we have 33 specific ones for money and 33 specific ones for relationships. It's so interesting how like it's so interesting that money and relationships is all that people want, and that's the one with the blocks. But what happens in the process is that these fears creep up. So some examples are money is the root of all evil. That's the first one. And the fact is that everyone has heard of it in some shape or form because it's a conditioning that goes back centuries, if not a millennium. So, and these are ingrained conditions in our bones where everyone's heard of it, but they don't exactly know where it comes from. And one of them is the fear of poverty. And so even billionaires have this fear. Even billionaires have the fear of poverty. And that's the problem when it comes with what you fear grows. So what you focus on grows. And if you fear poverty, guess what? You're going to be focusing on that a lot more. And guess what? That will come through. But what makes billionaires different from, you could say, people who are millionaires, is just that they're very great in managing their fears. They're very great at working through them. Even though, because they have that understanding that to get to the goal, they have to get through that fear in the initial stages.
Yeah. How long did it take you to get to your goal? Once you decided?
And that's what's interesting because a lot of people, the decision takes the longest because what happens is when you go from decision to decision to decision, you start to move up with speed. But then if you're not a decisive person, you are left in a state of procrastination, not knowing that this is the right thing, but not wanting to do it because one, the fear, or two, it is too hard, for example. And so for me to take the first goal, honestly, it took me 6 weeks.
Oh.
So my first initial amount of money that I was earning, so this was in specifically network marketing, so i.e. direct sales. And honestly, I give all credit to God and my mentors, honestly. But it was the idea that within the first 6 weeks, I hit £38,000 a month. And
Wow.
it purely because there's two ways to form a habit, and these are the right habits. Because something that Bob talks about and something that we talk about is something called the paradigm. And some people may understand what the paradigm is, others don't. But to give a very, very precise explanation, is the paradigm is a multitude of habits that are placed in your subconscious mind. And just to go a bit more in depth, our subconscious mind controls pretty much our results because 96 to 98% of our day is purely subconscious. So in that process, if 96 to 98% of our day is subconscious, guess what? Our results are very, very much going to be an outcome of that. And so in that being said, when it comes to the paradigms, there's only two ways to form it. One is through repetition. For example, you form the habit of brushing your teeth by constantly doing it every morning and every night. That's how you form the habit. But have you ever tried doing it with your non-dominant hand? That's when it becomes a bit more interesting. But this is something that was very interesting. This is what really gets the results much faster, is by emotional impact. And emotional impact is usually like a bang, and it's something negative. Usually it's something negative. It can be positive, but most of the time it's negative because people are more driven by pain than it's pleasure, just really depending on what it is. And my mentor was a master of that emotional impact. And what it was is that the way she mentored me was very, very strict. And there was an emotional impact every single time if I didn't do something. So it was that idea. So that allowed me to stay on the right track. Although it was hard, it still got me the results, but allowed me to stay on the right track. And the only problem with that is that it's not duplicatable. You can't give yourself an emotional impact purely because your intellect knows what you're doing and then it doesn't work. However, if someone else, that's why you need a mentor, if someone else gets on that and does that, whole nother board game, because you know that you have full accountability. There's no going out. And the only thing is you just have to keep going. And that's really what it's about. No.
You're right. It's very powerful. And I've heard Bob Proctor talk about his tapes he used to listen to. And I mean, you could listen for hours and hours and hours and play it in your car, but who's got time for that? And there are other ways. Why not utilize them? So, I mean, obviously, he's found a better way that is faster, but 6 weeks is really remarkable. So, yeah. What would you say to people that have now had repetitious thoughts over years and years, and they're thinking, oh my goodness, I've worked hard my whole life. I've got nothing to show for it. What do I do now? There's no hope. What would you
Mm,
say to those people?
great question. The biggest thing is environment. The first thing I would do is get out of the environment that you're currently in. And it doesn't even matter. I don't even mean change countries or travel. I don't even mean that. That would be great. Don't get me wrong. That would definitely be phenomenal for you. But for those who may not even be in the financial capacity, I say just change your friends. Change and find a new place of community. Because one, you Bob was very precise in what he was saying. There's only three things that people want, and it's not the million, it's not the mansion, it's nothing like that. He really just said, "Hey, look, the first thing that people want is no financial concern. They want to be able to go to a place and have no financial concern about how am I going to pay the bills or how am I going to pay the rent." The second thing is they want to be around high energy people, anyone who's high energy, goal driven, etc., but very so laser focused on a goal. And lastly, they wanna they wanna be around not only just high energy people, but they also want to wake up every single day excited for the day. They want to know they're purposeful. They know what they want to do. They're excited for what the days to come, and they just do it. And that's what really people want. So for those people, I'd say first find a new surrounding, find a new environment, find new people, go to the gym. Honestly, I remember there was a period of time as well, even when I first started, that I was very miserable in an aspect, and it was nothing to do with the money. But the moment I started going to the gym and being around people, because at 38K a month, the way the business model was structured was it was very much a full-time job, very much. And it felt like a full-time job. Yeah, I get paid at the end of the month. That was just the structure of that company. So with that being said, I still felt like I was a job, but guess what? I was on a no commission basis. I mean, sorry, I was on an only commission basis. And so in that being said, I said, hey, look, I have no time. And I was miserable. And in that process, I decided, hey, look, I'm just going to go to the gym. And I have been going to the gym for a long time at that point, but I just simply didn't have the time. So then I decided to take a step back and say, hey, look, I need to go to the gym. I need to be around different people. I need to be around different environments, because it's great in all having a business and it's sustaining and it providing you an income. However, if that's the only thing you talk about and that's the only thing that you have in your mind, is great and all, but it really takes away from knowing again who you are. Because again, in education, in a job, you're so focused on the job or the education that you don't have any time to focus on what you want, who you are. So it's a very powerful thing. So yeah, definitely go to the gym, and it's very powerful because I'm not a scientist in the regards, but I know there's specific hormones that get released when you have a great workout immediately after the effects of having a great workout. So I definitely know that if you want an instant feeling, because most people want that instant feeling, go for a workout and definitely try it. But even then, find out what you want to do, find out what you like. And it's always about clarity. And something else that is powerful, that everyone can get anything they want. They can get anything they want. Doesn't matter how they're going to get it. They just need to know that they can get it. But the problem with most people is that they don't know what they want. Very simple. It's very simple. They just don't know what they want. For example, they're saying, I want a mansion, I want a Lamborghini. Do you know how much that Lamborghini costs? Do you know which Lamborghini? Do you know what color do you want it? Do you know what color the interior do you want it? Because at that point, you're just having a wishful thought rather than being ready to receive it. And this is something that Bob got from his audios from Napoleon Hill. And Napoleon Hill said, there's a difference between wishing for a thing and being ready to receive it. It's great and all wanting it and dreaming about it, but if you're not ready to receive it, you won't get it. And there's actually an incredible story that I actually heard some time back now. And it was this, I think it was someplace in Africa. And what happened was there was a drought. There was no water in Africa. And the people were saying, we want rain, we want rain, we want rain. And they go to church one day, and the pastor, or the priest in some aspects, is disappointed at these people. It's like, you want rain? None of you are acting like it. Because if you wanted rain, you would have brought your umbrella. And so in that process, you start to understand, hey, look, it's great in wanting something, but are you ready to receive it? For example, do you, like, even in the money game, do you understand how taxes work? Do you have accountants that are ready? Do you even have a business bank account for those of you who wanting money? But even on, let's just say you want a new car. Do you know how much it is? Do you know what calculations you can do to get it? Even if you don't know how, just paying attention and staying focused on what you want, and maybe just paying attention to how you're going to get it. Doesn't matter if you don't know, but if you just stay focused on the how, you will find you'll find a reason, you'll find a way. Honestly, there's always a way. And that's something that my mentor was very adamant about. She said, there's a will, there's a way. And that was one aspect. But it was also, whatever you want, you can receive it only if you are driven and focused on the goal. And it doesn't matter about hard work. A lot of people are conditioned to say, work will set you free. That's another abundance block, by the way. Work will set you free. It's very interesting. So a lot of people, well, we're all conditioned in a way of work will set you free. The more you work, the more outcome you receive. But everyone knows now, if that was the case, then people, I don't know, in McDonald's would be rich millionaires. Yep. Or anyone working 12 hours a day in a job, they'll be millionaires. But it's not that case. It's about thinking smarter, not harder. So in that process, it's not about working hard. It's about staying focused on the goal. Because when you're so focused, look, I was so focused on the goal, i.e. retiring my parents, and I say, hey, look, I need to retire them. I want to retire them. And I got so emotionally involved with the goal. I didn't feel like eating. I didn't feel like watching the TV. I didn't feel like going out. Unless that becomes a reality, it can't happen. And it was very, very powerful in that process. And that's all it was. It was just that really dedication to focus. So for the people that are in that place, that really, really are in that dark place and they want to get out of it, 1, change your environment. 2, go to the gym. And 3, find out what you really want. That's it. And just focus on how you're going to achieve it. And that's what it is.
It's very simple to say, but not so easy to do. You obviously had experienced something with your parents, the need for you to have them retire. Did you witness them working themselves so hard that they just didn't have a life?
It was very interesting because I grew up with them working hard. So they came to London and they had me, but they had to send me over to India for 1 year to live with my grandma because they couldn't fully financially support having a child. So they worked. So it was my parents in London and I was in India with my grandma. All I know are the stories. Of course, I was only a year old in that process, but I heard the story that my mom was crying every day, just having her son, just like as in a newborn baby, just taken away from mother. You can imagine how painful that can be. And then when I came back to London, I didn't realize, I thought it was normal for people to work very hard. I thought it was normal. Not only did I start to learn about other people's parents and other families, and then I realized, oh wow, my mom she wakes up at 5:30, leaves the house around 6:37, comes back about 7 p.m., 8 p.m., and then she does it on repeat. And then to support me for my education, she works on the weekends for, because my mom's a nanny, and she loves nannying. That's just one thing she loves, and I love her for that. But just in that process, I realized, wow. But there was a closer moment where my dad, in the Indian tradition of a male, you aren't very socially emotional. And so what that means is they don't cry. And very simply, they don't cry to anyone. They don't cry out loud. They're just silent. But I remember I was in my room once and I just hear crying. And I know it's not my mom because I know my mom's crying. And I'm like, I've never heard my dad cry. And then my dad goes to work just after crying. And then my mom comes and hugs me and she says, and I say, why is dad crying? She said, because my dad said, how is everyone making money and we're just working like donkeys? We're just working as hard as we can and we're not getting anything for it. Why is that happening? And it's just that switch of, oh, okay, this is not normal. There needs to be a way out. Let's find a way. And then And the key is staying in the vibration, staying in the mindset of it, staying in the result already fulfilled. So people say, oh yeah, you retired your parents and etc. etc. But I had retired my parents even before they were retired. In my mind, I wouldn't accept a different idea. And in that process, I said, hey, look, they're already retired. And then once you are so emotionally involved with the goal and it materializes in real life, you're not really surprised.
Yeah.
You feel bliss than anything else, but you're not really surprised because at the end of the day, you were doing this for months and months and months in your own mind. And then in that process, then it finally starts to become a reality. But then going back to your question, even before that, or how long did it take me? I said 6 weeks and I completely stick by it. But then the process of fully finding out what I wanted to do, it took a few months. It did take a few months, and its success doesn't happen overnight, and I know that. And it's just the understanding of if you're driven in a specific direction, then you can do it. That's all it is.
Well, you came with your umbrella, but you
I
had to
did.
carry it around for a while first.
Nicely.
Let's talk about energy and vibration. What is that? What role does that play in success and in goal setting?
One of the biggest principles ever in goal setting and goal achievement. And I'll tell you why. So so some people don't actually know where Napoleon Hill, but I'm going to digress for a moment just to explain the backstory. So Napoleon Hill, who wrote the book Think and Grow Rich, a lot of people don't know where he got that information from. And it's from one of the richest people ever recorded in history, Andrew Carnegie. And in that process, Andrew Carnegie was looking to give out all his, one of his things was he was going to earn the most money in the world, become the richest man, and give it all away. That's what his goal was. That's just what he wanted to do. But he didn't want to die knowing the information of this level of wealth. So he hired Napoleon Hill to write the book Think and Grow Rich. And Napoleon Hill basically sacrificed his whole life and dedicated his whole life to writing the book. And so he was in conversation with Tom Ford and Thomas Edison and all these incredible other individuals who had invented the light bulb, Thomas Edison, as I just mentioned. So all these incredible individuals. And he said this. He said that there are laws of our being. There's many, many laws. And the one that's going to impact your viewers the most is the law of vibration. And the law of vibration states that everything is moving, nothing rests. So, i.e., this table, the phone, us in itself, we're moving. We're constantly moving. And I don't mean physically like this, but I mean on a physical level, we're vibrating energy. We're vibrating particles. A lot of people say, that electron is the smallest particle in the world. Great. Thank you, scientists. But they found out there's something smaller than an electron. We call it energy. And so where this link is that when it comes to the law of vibration, is that if everything's moving, then we can attract everything to us. And if everything is a vibrating particle, we can attract it to us. And you don't need to understand how it works exactly, but I tell you that if you focus on the goal, you're setting yourself up on a certain frequency. So we have infinite numbers of frequency out there. And just by thinking of a specific goal that you have in mind, you start to put yourself on that frequency. And by feeling the emotions, this is what's so powerful about the law of vibration, is that the universe doesn't see words, affirmations, etc. It sees emotions. And so the feeling, as I say, there's so many other laws, law of attraction, law of vibration, so many other laws that we can talk about. But the most powerful one would be the law of vibration, because that is something that is dictated by our feelings. And a great resource I recommend your viewers to look into is Abraham Hicks and his emotional scale. It's very, very powerful. And it talks about how our emotions are directly correlate with frequencies out there. And it talks about love, appreciation, and gratitude is the highest frequency. And by tapping into that, you start to attract a lot of things to yourself. So, and even if you were to achieve your goal, let's just say retiring the parents in my case, by me achieving that goal, what happened was I knew I was going to be grateful. Of course you're going to be grateful. You tried your parents, like, of course. You achieved your goal, of course you're going to be grateful. Even an inkling of gratitude will come along. So by tapping into gratitude, you're tapping into the state of the wish fulfilled. And it's very, very powerful because once you start to really emotionally get involved, that law of vibration happens and you start attracting things into your life very, very simply. And so by understanding that everything's energy, including your parents, including money, because people say paper, this piece of paper, imaginary, is money. But no, it's not. This paper came from a tree. Money is an idea.
Yeah.
And in that, they start to ask themselves, okay, great. Money is an idea. How do I attract it? Okay, great. So you just need to understand that money is energy. How do I attract the energy into me? And the state of being that must be done for money is, how would you feel if you had the money you desired? Most likely you feel safe, you feel secure. And then the last aspect is that you have to become obsessed. Because the moment you become obsessed, the moment you start thinking about it. And the more you think about it, the more your focus becomes and the more you start to attract, because the longer you're staying in that vibration. So the vibration that we're sending out comes back to us. That's really what it's about. So just think, I would like to think as a quiet lake, a very still lake, and you just put a finger there and it just ripples. And that's what it's about. When you're emotionally getting involved and thinking about it, you're constantly tapping that lake and the vibration is sending out. But whatever goes out has to come back. That's the law. That's one of the laws. Has to come back to you. So in the process of becoming obsessed and consistently thinking about your goal and being emotionally involved, of being, let's just say it's money, safe and secure, then you start attracting the money to you. Because you wouldn't, like people say, you wouldn't need to think about becoming a millionaire if you're already a millionaire. So therefore, if you're working from the state already, then you're saying, hey, look, I am a millionaire. Great. How would I operate? And the key is by operating from the state. And that's what we call the law of assumption as well. Law of vibration, the feeling is a secret, but what you really want to do is behave and act like you're already achieved the goal. And then when it actually happens and materializes in the real world, guess what? You're not surprised. It just happens.
You know what visual comes up for me is the in the Matrix where the boy is bending the spoon.
Yep.
And he says to Neo, you have to become the spoon.
Yes. So right. And there's a lot of incredible lessons in the Matrix. It's funny enough, even before going to my mentorship initially, I never had watched the Matrix. I had always heard of it. I mean, I'm a 2005 baby, so it's a bit before my time. But in that process, I said, oh wow. And even the spoon itself, that's a great example. So I appreciate you for bringing that up, because you have to become the spoon in order to change it or to become it. So once you become the spoon, you act like the spoon, you behave like the spoon, you get emotion involved like the spoon, guess what? You become the spoon. And then you can do all sorts of magic with that.
Yeah. Now, you say focus. What if somebody, for example, wants to become healthy and wants a relationship and wants money? Is it possible to focus on all three things at the same time? Or does your brain compartmentalize it? Or is it better to say, okay, let me get this one goal first? Or does one have a knock-on effect on the other? How does that work?
Great question. Andrew Carnegie was very adamant about a chief aim. And it's great. Everyone wants exactly what you just mentioned. They want great health, they want relationship, and they want the money. It's phenomenal. And there's actually, there's a lot of people that talk about this, like Brian Tracy and all these other incredible individuals. But the main thing that you want to do is focus on one goal at a time. You can have a vision. So the key is by having a vision, you're living in your imagination. And what do I mean by that? You have a vision of how your life is going to be. Great. You're going to have a relationship. You're going to have the house. You're living in something that we call imagined reality. So We talk about using, most people use about 10% of their brain or 10% of their brain potential. And the way to unlock more of that potential is by using our higher faculties that Bob talks about, i.e., it's the imagination, the will, the reason, memory, and intuition, and lastly, it's also reason as well. Okay, I think I said reason already. Maybe it'll come to me if need be. But in that process, once you use these higher faculties, oh, it's perception. There we go, it's perception. But in that process, when you start to use these higher faculties, specifically the imagination of it, we start to uncover this whole other reality that we've imagined. Because, as you know, a lot of people notice the body doesn't know between something that's really happening and what's in our intensive imagination. And so in that process, when you live in the imagined reality, the key is to have the vision. Have the vision of what you truly want. I want the car, I want the girlfriend, or I want the wife, I want 2 children. Great, amazing. Paint the picture. And then you find out what goal would you want to set to get closest to it. So i.e., what goal is there that really matches everything? And what I really uncover is that, I mean, health is great. Health is very, very powerful. And you need to have health. I mean, if you don't have health, you don't have anything. Let's be real. But to be honest, it's also about the money as well. I mean, if your health is doing well, focus on having great health. But on the process of becoming a person, and this is what's so key, because a lot of people set the goal of saying, hey, well, look, I want the million, I want the billionaire status, etc., etc. But they don't understand what it requires. And Jim Rohn is such an incredible person, because his quote was so amazing that he received. You should set a goal to become a millionaire, not because of the money, but because of what it would make of you to achieve it. So the key is not the million. The key is becoming the person worthy enough to attract the million into your life. And in that process, you're really looking, because I tell you, when you're at a millionaire stage, you're operating on a whole nother level. Your health is great, honestly. I mean, nowadays you can become a millionaire by all sorts of means because of social media, and don't need to do much on the health side or anything on the personal development side. You can pump a stupid video and then boom, you're a millionaire before you know it. But the big aspect of it is by really looking at what would make me worthy of a million. First of all, am I ready to receive it? Do I have a business bank account already? Okay, great. I do. Phenomenal. That's the one aspect. And the reason why I'm focusing on a business bank account is because I didn't have a business bank account doing all this. It was very much a struggle doing all of that, because wealth came quickly, but I wasn't prepared. Over time, you get prepared and all these other things. That's why time is one of the best healers. But then once you become that version of yourself, then you start to think about which goal would get me closest to the person. So you only work on one goal. It's A, chief aim. And Brian Tracy likes to say, hey, look, write down 20 goals, for example. And if you were to achieve that goal tomorrow, which one would it be? And he said, usually that'll pop out at you. Because which one's more appealing? Great health, you want a relationship, or you want the money? That can be 3 things. But then one of them is going to really, really resonate with you and really pop out to you. And that's the one that you focus on. And honestly, if you want the relationship before the money, that's completely fine. But if you want a high value woman, as some like to call them, then they're gonna require you to become a high value person as well. And something about relationships, there's specific ways to go about it. Because as we were talking about, you need to become the spoon in order to be able to change it. And you need to become the person before you can get it. And so now this is a great thing that I learned as well. And it's for relationships specifically. Write down how you'd want that partner to be. Great, caring, loyal, very pretty. I don't know. All these other aspects. Maybe don't focus too much on the physical appearance, but focus on more of the attributes of itself, of who that person is. Is she shy? Is she caring? Is she loyal? And all these other aspects. And it could even be, does she cook? Great. Now you just set up a list for who you need to become.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you attract it. And I'm not saying some get the misconception, don't become the goal, don't be a goal. Obviously, you probably understand what I'm saying. But the attributes that you do have, that you have listed, become that, and then you attract someone in the same caliber. Because, for example, if you want a girl who goes to the gym and you don't, well, you may not, and your girlfriend, your spouse, your boyfriend may be at the gym, and since you're not going to the gym and doing the law of assumption, you're not uncovering the person who goes to the gym. So therefore, who else are you going to find? People who may not go to the gym. That's why you have to become what you desire to be. And once you do that, you really start to implement, okay, the law of assumption and receiving that. So going back to your question, the focus is one goal and achieving one at a time. Usually some of them will come with it, as they say about men. When you focus on the money, the girls come with it. They say that, especially with the success. But then the idea is you want to focus on the right things. And really be honest with yourself. The key is being honest and say, am I, for example, even with a relationship, am I ready for a relationship? Am I ready for it? And you have to be very honest with yourself because you're not lying to anyone else. But the last thing that I wanted, because I mean, I'll be honest, I don't have a girlfriend. I'll put that out there. But I knew that I had to get to a certain level of income, stability, and person for me to be able to be ready for a girlfriend. Because one of the things that my mentor said, look, it's stupid to think that you're going to have a relationship without any problems. If you already have problems in your business and your other life and your other source of life with, I don't know, fitness, etc., why do you want to add another problem to you? And that's not to say that girls are a problem. There's no problems. But however, when you're combining yourself with a person and becoming a partnership, what happens is the paradigms of each other clash unconsciously to the point where it was interesting because my mentor actually said this just yesterday. So crazy, like we're coming up with this. But she said even leaving the dishes in the sink when she comes back from work, for example, she comes back home and she sees the dishes. Yeah, that can lead to divorce or lead to a big argument. That's what she was saying. And it's very powerful that, hey, look, sort yourself out and then have an incredible person come into your life. I'm a firm believer that, look, become the person so that you can treat whoever your partner is to the best of your ability. And you have no other worries about that.
So you could say, I don't have a girlfriend yet.
Exactly. You don't have it yet. It's precisely.
Yeah. So, yeah, I love Jim Rohn. I think he's one of my favorite speakers of all time. One of the few. What you were saying earlier was quite interesting, but now it's just completely gone out of my brain. So I'll carry on talking and it'll come back to me because that's how these things work. You're still very young. Like I mean, if I compare you, my son is 17 years old. So where you are and where he is light years apart. But how have you changed inside? Like, do you feel like you're a different person? Do you think differently, or do you think it's just something that, I don't know, let's go there. How have you changed?
I am a completely new person. Mentally, physically, my hair used to be down, I used to have a full beard, and I never used to wear glasses. If that picture comes to mind, allow it to come because I look very different. But the internal work is the first thing. How I changed, one was really assessing, because remember what I said, you attract who you are, not what you want. And you attract who you are and not what you want when it comes to physical stuff as well. But when it comes to people, when I was meeting new people, I was realizing very quickly these people are on a very low vibration. And so that allowed me to say, okay, I need to go on a higher vibration to attract higher level people. And that's what it was. So one was the belief systems, like as I was talking about, I'm scared to sell people. I'm scared to sell friends and family because I'm afraid that I'm going to ruin everything for them and et cetera, et cetera. And what you focus on grows. That was one aspect, is really changing the paradigm. As I said, the paradigm is a multitude of habits. And honestly, it's very, very simple. Once you change the paradigm, you change everything in your life. Very, very simply. And as I said, constant space repetition and emotional impact. And that's the only two ways to change a habit in the subconscious mind. And that's all it is. That's the first aspect of what I changed. But then it was about how I see myself. And this is something that Bob calls a self-image. And it's the idea of, if someone was to see me, would I look like £1 million? Would I look like I've retired my parents? Would I look like I've done all the incredible stuff? And I said, no, I don't. I didn't feel great. And if we were to go back a couple of years now, I mean, a year and a half ago, I would probably be in this meeting in probably like joggers right now, joggers and a t-shirt. It was having the ability of, hey, look, how do other millionaires, billionaires dress? How do other successful people dress? And then I adopted it. Okay, great. This is how they dress. What other styles do they have? What can I implement? Let's see what I can do on the outside so that my inner world can change as well. Because the problem is that most people, they can put on a nice t-shirt, they can put on a nice blazer, and they can look great. However, inside, if they don't see themselves as worthy, then it will show up on the outside. For example, so you can see someone who's very, very great, and especially women, something that's most incredible. I say this on mostly every podcast. Women have incredible intuition. And Natasha, you probably have a partner, and in that process, you probably had previous partners as well. And get me right, you're probably always right in any situation. Am I correct? You were probably
It's
exactly.
always being right.
And it can be. But this is the incredible thing about women, is that they have such a high developed intuition, and the intuition never lies to you. And people can sense it. If I'm insecure, people can sense it. If I don't see myself great, people can sense it. People want to be around confident people. They don't want to be saying, "Oh, you're so great," and then you're saying, "Oh, nah, I'm just stupid. Don't know what I'm doing." People don't want to hear that. People actually don't want to hear that. They don't want to be around you. They want to run away from you. If you're saying, "I'm stupid, I'm this, I'm that," they're gonna run away from you. And guess what? Misery loves company. So who are you gonna be attracting if you're miserable? Miserable people. And that's
yeah.
So I really had to, I had to see how I saw myself and also change the paradigms. It's really very simple. Change the programming of the subconscious mind, i.e. the paradigms, you change your results in the outer world. Very, very simple.
Yeah, and that change, like you said earlier, it's just the decision. It's leading up to the decision that takes forever.
Yeah.
I remember what I was going to ask you. Well, I was going to say something. It's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We at the bottom, it's food, shelter, your basic needs. And, as you go higher up, it's the need for connection. But if somebody doesn't have that basic need, they cannot thrive in all the other areas. So for me, I would assume that for most people, it is money, unless they already had it. So they wouldn't be looking for that. But if they don't have money, it becomes the vision for the rest of your life, because that is going to be able to give you the means to provide, to protect, to supply, to create a safe place in which to venture out into the world.
100%. And it's just about having that foundation. If you don't have that foundation, you're building your house on rocks instead of bricks. And that's what happens.
Well, I just love the fact that you are so focused and so clear. It's such a, I'm gonna emphasize the age, because there's so many people that I speak to that say, "Oh, at my age it can't be done." And I mean, at what age is a good time? To me, it's right now. So really, I really think what you've done for yourself is just amazing, and it inspires people to want to know that that is possible, that they are capable, and it's got nothing to do with intelligence. I think it's more your EQ than your IQ. Just tell us about the events that you're launching. You're doing stuff at the moment. What are you up to?
100%. So we love to specialize on a lot of different things, and how our inner world really affects the outer world and our other places. So we actually have, it's so crazy. We have our next virtual event. So it'll be a 2-day event where we do on the weekend, and it's targeted towards parents and children, funny enough.
Oh, nice.
And as I was mentioning, the different color characters. We also have a different way of saying the animals. So we have, in the colors, we have the red, green, blue, and yellow. But on the animals, we have the whale, the shark, the dolphin, and the owl. And those are other aspects as well. So we love to teach the animals, because we know that once you understand who you are and how you communicate, you've got to understand how other people communicate as well, and just really build relationships. So we touch upon different topics of how you can approach the same principle just in a different area. So we've had mental health, we've had some other aspects as well. And so in that process, you start to uncover that. So we do virtual events and we do live events. So we have a live event coming up in the very near future. We're looking at one to do an Ascot. So we're looking where we're looking to about we're starting off small. We're starting off with like a few hundred people, something small with that, and then we're going to build it up into London and all the other locations. However, when it comes to our virtual events, we do it every month, usually at the end of it. But we also have our other events as well. So we have our paid events and we also have our free events as well. Other than that, we have all sorts of ranges of communities, packages, etc. Whatever the people need, we have. That's very, very simple.
You mentioned the four colors. What are the other? You've spoken about blue and yellow. What are the other two colors' personalities like?
Great. So I'm just going to do a recap. So the blue personality is someone who's very outgoing, very social butterfly, very extroverted. They love talking to people. They love being around people. The yellow are people who are very caring, very nurturing. You'll find them quite soft in personality, and they just want to make sure everyone's okay. Now you have the green. So the green individual are people who are very analytical, very, very literature oriented. They can read the books. They're very good at admin work. So they're very good at those aspects, and really, but at the same time, they don't really like connecting. They find connecting awkward because they think a lot. But that can be great because they're very precise, very precise and very punctual, you could say. So anyone who's on the time, for example, if you tell them to come at 7 o'clock, they'll come at exactly 7 o'clock. Bless you. And lastly, we have the red character. So the red character are very goal-driven, very like, people will say egotistical, but that's just how they see themselves. They have a great self-image. That's why red people have always great results. But at the same time, it can be applicable to any color character. But they're very goal-driven. They're very results-oriented. And if you tell them it's impossible, they'll find a way to make it possible. That's the red character. So those are four different color characters.
Nice. Yeah, nice. So the live events are for people that are wanting to find out more, as well as obviously getting more into it and participating as well. What is your vision for the live events that you're going to be having in Florida?
Oh, great question. So with our events in Florida, so I mean, we see it really being sold out. So one of my business partners, incredible business partners, I must say, she is in Florida, Tampa, and we're arranging some things in Florida and really getting things going in that process to really make it massive. We're looking at about 1,000 people, so we're excited for that. Very, very excited.
That sounds very exciting. Yeah. If somebody wanted to start their own business or coaching journey, what advice would you give them?
Great question. Always find a mentor. First thing, find a mentor. If they want to start their business, find a mentor first. You need a third person perspective. And the key is, who do you listen to? Don't listen to anyone who doesn't have the results that you want. So if they're not a successful business person, don't listen to them. They can't lead you to the place that you want them to. That's one aspect. But then if you want to start your own business, it doesn't really, honestly, the how doesn't matter. And it's going to sound crazy, but the how does not matter for most people. And then for most people, it's going to sound crazy, but the how doesn't matter at all. The only thing is want. And just really, if you want to build a company, clarity. What elements do you want to have? And what do I mean by that is, okay, great. If it's a clothing brand, what's the name of the brand? What material is it? Configure, really. It's really about painting the picture. That's what it is. Paint the picture, and immediately, or maybe even some time. It may give it a week, give it a day. I don't know how long people's awareness happens because it changes from person to person. But the next thing is really have that awareness of, what do I need to do next to make it happen? And if you don't know, perfectly fine. Find a mentor. They'll always show you the correct way. And that's what really served me. A mentor providing me the skills. They gave me a fast track to success because they were able to stop me from hitting walls that I didn't need to. and avoiding a lot of bad investments, etc. And number three, you have someone who's in your back pocket and gives you credibility. So, I mean, if a 19-year-old was to come up to you and say X, Y, and Z, I can do this for you, you probably won't believe it. But the fact that I can leverage the expertise of my mentor in most aspects, it gives me a worthy enough leg to stand on when it comes to helping and serving people. So that's the main
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, it's true. Wasn't in Think and Grow Rich, didn't Napoleon Hill talk about Henry Ford when he was designing was it the eight-cylinder engine?
Yes.
And they said it can't be done, and he said, "No, I didn't ask you if it could be done. I just told you to make it." you know, because the how is irrelevant, but it's going to be done.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. So let's talk about spirituality.
Right. Love it.
How important is purpose, and how can someone find theirs?
One of my favorite topics. Purpose is one of the most important things. But honestly, I always say that it's really about what people want. If you want to become that developed person who's very, very knowledgeable in all aspects and very, very, you can tell the person he's very competent, very confident. Your purpose is extremely important when it comes to your confidence. Because if you don't know who you are going like a leaf in the wind. And Bob always said this. He said, look, I don't care how much money it offers me, I don't care how much time it releases me. If it's not in my purpose, I don't even want to hear it. Because when you're in your purpose, when you're doing what you love to do, you're no longer working. You're never working anymore. And Bob said, never work again, because you find out what you want to do. And so in that process, once you find your purpose, then it's the aspect of you're truly born free, because then you are forgetting all limitations. You don't care. Anyone can say anything at you, but I tell you, it's like your life completely shifts in a completely different direction. How you find it, now that's a great question. When it comes to finding your purpose, you have to delve into yourself, which can be very hard for some people. But I tell you, there's nothing in the world, actually, forget world, there's nothing in the universe that will help you find your purpose. And to give you clarity, your purpose is so unique that no one has ever duplicated, done it since the beginning of time. And in that process, you start to see, my purpose is so unique. There's something so unique about me. What is it? And then in that process, you start to uncover more and more and more and more and more. But the purpose comes in puzzles. It doesn't come like the built car that it is. It doesn't come like that. It comes in spare parts. It comes in other aspects if we're building that car of purpose. And so the best way to find is by delving into who you are. Very, very much you can just go into what do you love to do? Just even asking that question, what do I love to do? Can ignite so much in you of just saying, wow. And then, but I was actually doing a coaching session today as well, a mentoring session this morning. And this incredible individual, she's 18. And she's just starting to understand what she wants to do. And with her, she uncovered something a little bit more. And what I mean by that is not more about her purpose, but more about what she doesn't want. She said, I don't like insurance. I don't like that. I don't like underwriting insurance. Okay, phenomenal. That is a win. That's an incredible thing. And I'll tell you why. Because when it comes with finding it out and finding out what you want to do, it may be like when you go to a restaurant for the first time that you've never been to, and all the stuff on the menu is that some things that you've never heard of before, you've never seen it before, and you just maybe one or two of them you may have heard of it, but you have no idea what they are. Very simple. And in that process, I tell her, fine, what you've done is you ordered a specific dish. You don't like it, but that's phenomenal. Now you gain clarity on what you don't like, which is getting closer to what you do like. And so some people, they have to experiment, especially in that young age. In this young age, I'm including in the young age. It's is that you have to find out what you like to do. And the best thing is about exploring new ideas. And then if you do receive inspiration about something or someone, find out what about that inspired you. And then start to build the picture. But then purpose, especially, it comes so much because I'm very, very God oriented. I'm a very spiritual person. I honestly, I love any religion. I go to all sorts of churches and mosques and stuff like that. I really enjoy it because it gives me a different element of God. But I tell you that it would be impossible for me to find out what my purpose was if I didn't have a connection with God. That's what was very, very powerful in my growth. And I'm coming from a place where I didn't believe in God or I was agnostic. I'm coming from a place there as well. I'm coming from a place where I was like, God, I don't believe in you. But quite ironic, I say, God, I don't believe in you. Wait, you get my.
Yeah, it is ironic.
It is. But then eventually it starts to grow. And it's really about building a relationship with, and people perceive God in very, very different ways. Higher power, universe, Allah, Buddha, Allah, Krishna, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter about the label. Just understand that there is a higher power out there that is working for your benefit. But the best way I perceive it, because as I said, perception is one of our greatest higher faculties, is how we perceive it. And my perception of what God or the higher power is I just see him as a loving father. And there's so much to it that I would love to go in more depth in, but it would take a couple lifetimes of how much I could talk about when it comes to God. But when it comes to God, it's really about love, just a loving father. An all loving father, how would he operate? And just ask yourself, a loving father, great. How would he be? And I just see him as someone who's always willing to give me a guide. If I do something wrong, if I fall back into my paradigms, I know he's going to love me regardless. Unconditional love. He loves me regardless of whatever I do. And so for some people, they don't understand it because their minds can be quite closed to it. But God loves you regardless of whatever you do.
Where can people get hold of you, Gleston?
Right. Social media is the best way, honestly. Social media is the best way. Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, anything works. And that's the best place. And you probably will see some posts, just come and be a part of the network, even for our community. The first time you want to visit it is completely for free. We want you to really have that experience. So anyway, social media, Gleston Mendonca, that's the name.
Yeah, I'll post those links below. If you could leave the audience with a powerful message, what would it be?
Regardless of any circumstance in your life, any situation that's happened in your past, any situation that you're going through right now, you will overcome it. And when you find out what you want, you can achieve anything that you want. And once you find that out, and once you achieve it, life truly becomes heaven on earth, as they say.
Magic. Thank you. It was wonderful hearing your story. Very inspiring. I'm sure that our listeners will be inspired too. I'll certainly post all your links below. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. And yeah, keep doing what you're doing. I think it's wonderful. And yeah, I would say not just have not a girlfriend yet, have a partner that is aligned with you yet.
100%. And alignment's the key. Yeah, I love it. Appreciate you.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much. Have a great day.
You too. Take care.